Welcome to January Pet Resort, where pet luxury has never been more affordable. Welcome back to the January Pet Resort podcast. Thank you for joining us. So the thing we're going to talk about today, something that I think is affecting me right now when it comes to one of my dogs. Now, Maggie is an 11-and-a-half-year-old Yorkie. This is something that we've really noticed within the last week, where at night she starts to get agitated. So she starts panting heavily. She can't settle. She was running back and forth between the living room and the kitchen. When she's on the couch, she's dancing all over the couch. She's not settling. She usually sleeps most of the time. It's not super old for a Yorkie, but it's old.
So it wasn't normal behavior.
It was not at all. She's usually knocked out at night, sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, because she's tiny. I mean, you could put this dog in your pocket.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have not taken her to the vet yet. I've not talked to my vet about it, but this is what I believe she has. It's called Sundown Syndrome. Now, Sundown Syndrome is something that actually happens to people as well, and it's a type of canine cognitive dysfunction syndrome, which in layman's terms is doggy dementia. And the reason why they call it Sundowner Syndrome is because it happens a lot of the times in the late afternoon, evening, and nighttime when the sun starts to go down. It's a decline in the proteins in the brain that are called beta amyloids. This protein forms this plaque buildup, and that leads to brain inflammation, and that damages the nerve cells and the sensory perception in the brain permanently. Now, obviously, brains naturally change with age. One of the things that happens is a reduced production of sleep hormones. People and dogs' bodies run on their circadian rhythm, so that's a 24-hour cycle. So you wake up in the morning, your body knows it's awake. At nighttime, you start to get tired. You go to sleep. It starts all over. The problem is that melatonin is released by the pineal gland. And when that melatonin isn't being released in a large enough amount, it screws up the circadian rhythm, which screws up your brain. And that happens in dogs too.
I think I have that as well.
I know. Yeah, sleeping is always an issue. They do say a lot of times, like if your dog has vision issues, if they have hearing issues, if they have arthritis, because they're already uncomfortable, that can also be a health issue that may contribute to the level of agitation. The main symptoms are going to be pacing, nighttime barking, and extreme disorientation.
Where they normally wouldn't do that.
Correct. Exactly. But there's a few things that you can see early, like the subtle early signs. And that might be they go up and down the stairs, no problem. All of a sudden, they start to not want to go up and down the stairs like they were. It might be that they're sleeping, but they're struggling to sleep. Like maybe your dog always puts itself to bed at 9 o'clock. Now it's 10:30, 11, and they're just going to bed. Dogs are very task-oriented. They like things at the same time. We all know, our dogs know when it's time to eat dinner and time to eat breakfast.
Absolutely. When I tell Google to turn off the lights, Devin goes in her kennel, Hunter goes in his kennel.
Right.
It's just like by default. So how many people actually observe their dogs at bedtime?
If you're someone who is crating your dog at night, you know your dog's going in the crate. But if your dog's just sleeping on the bed or sleeping on the floor, sleeping on the couch, you're not really seeing what they do, especially once you go to bed. Because most of the time, their bedtime is your bedtime. Some of the other early signs are they could be clingy. So your dog's following you around more so than normal. Or the opposite. They can be withdrawn. Whereas normally your dog's following you around, and now they're just kind of laying there and they're not following you around. It's a change. And most of the time we're not going to think much of it, but this is one of the early signs. If you think of a family who's got a bunch of kids who have after school activities or they're involved in clubs, you're not always cognizant of the fact that something that small has changed in your dog because your life is so busy. So many of us are constantly running from one thing to another, but those little tiny changes, we might see them, but you're not going to let it sink in that that's a change. You're so busy, you're allowed to miss things. You shouldn't feel guilty that you miss it because your life is so busy. When you have your dog get a little older, you need to watch him a little bit closer. The other thing that sometimes happens as an early sign, everyday tasks that they've always done get a little trickier. You might have them where they might soil in the house. They never soil in the house. And then you might think to yourself, I just didn't get them out. It could be they're older, they got confused, they didn't go to the bathroom, they come inside, now they just have to go. They don't realize that they didn't go to the bathroom. Or you have some dogs who don't even realize they're going to the bathroom when it happens. They might not even realize they're defecating because they're that old and their brain's just not working to say, this is what your body's doing right now. When it happens the first couple times, just made an accident. A little bit older, just made an accident. It happens. One of the other things is Maggie has an issue. We have a small step between the living room and the kitchen. She has an issue going down that step unless she's in this mindset. She will not jump on the couch unless she's in this mindset. She's tiny. She's 5 pounds. We never thought she'd be able to jump on our couch. When she's in this mindset, she's jumped on the couch. That's different. And that's the excitement, the hyper excitement.
So instead of thinking, oh, Maggie jumped on the couch, you're thinking something's wrong because she never does that.
Exactly.
Right.
Her patella with little dogs, they can luxate, which means they can pop out of joint. Because hers are so bad, they are permanently popped out of joint. So her patella does not sit on the front of her knee of her back legs. It's permanently to the side. So that causes arthritis issues. It causes pain. In my mind, how is this dog jumping onto the couch when she has permanently luxated patellas? She should not be able to jump on the couch, but she does. So that's something of a change when they get older. Sometimes with these, another early sign is they just stare at their food bowl, kind of not sure what they're supposed to do, and then they start eating. Besides the main signs of the pacing, the barking, and the disorientation. One of the other things we did notice with her is we're watching a movie, so we had the lights dimmed in the living room, and we dimmed them earlier in the day, and we noticed that made her go through one of these episodes earlier in the day. So now you're already talking about the circadian rhythm, the sun going down, Sundowner Syndrome. Now it feels like the sun's gone down earlier because we had the lights dimmed. She got one of these episodes earlier in the day. If for some reason, leaving your light on keeps them from going into that excited state of mind.
So it doesn't trigger it.
Exactly.
So what could you do to comfort Maggie in this age of her life?
We are setting up a routine for her so that it's predictable. She knows exactly when bedtime is. Even if we stay up, she's going to bed. She sleeps in a crate at night. She's got her water in there, her food. When we feed her in the crate, she's got a big fluffy bed in there. She goes to bed at the same time every night. We make sure she's fed at the same time every night. We make sure her last potty break is at the same time. We set up a routine for her so everything is predictable and she has nothing new thrown into her life.
Right. So if she wanted to act out, she couldn't because she's in the crate.
She's in the crate. Exactly. We're making sure that Maggie walks, but we want to make sure we are exercising her so that she's physically tired. We're making sure she's walking around. We're making sure that we keep everything as the same as possible for her on our end so that nothing can trigger what's going on. They'll put dogs on prescription anxiety medication
like
at this
what?
point.
Doggy Xanax?
You've got tramadol, you've got gabapentin, prescription drugs.
Isn't that really heavy, though, for a dog?
It is
like
very
Maggie?
heavy. You can get a small enough dose,
so that it would just control the symptoms.
Exactly. And a lot of dogs are on anxiety medications, which is completely normal.
I'm on anxiety medications.
Yeah, a lot of people are on anxiety.
And everybody surrounded by me has to be on them.
And then there are medications for cognitive decline. They don't stop it from happening, but they slow the progression. Fatty acids help with brain function. So making sure you're feeding your dog extra fatty acids and antioxidants, that can help. You can add it as a supplement. You can do a prescription diet if you'd like. I would just add some fatty acids and antioxidants to what I feed.
So Eileen, what advice would you give somebody with an older dog who, after listening to this podcast, might be looking for a dog with this condition?
If you start to see things that are a little different, write it down. Write down when it happened. Write down what was going on.
So keep a little journal.
Keep a little journal. One of the reasons why I haven't taken Maggie yet is because we just really started to see this last week. I want to see what happens this week. And then I'll schedule an appointment with the vet. Can I put her on melatonin? How much melatonin should I put her on? Because I believe this is what's going on. Maggie just had blood work done not that long ago because she had a dental done.
And how did that look?
Perfect. If your dog hasn't had blood work recently, once you get that all recorded of the signs that you're seeing and you can kind of see when things happen, go to your vet, talk to them about it, get some blood work done. There's a senior dog anyway. If they haven't had blood work done in a while, you really want to get it done to begin with, just to make sure nothing else is going on. And just really be on top of it and realize that you can get through it. Your dog has given you their love for their entire life. At the end of their life, return that love to them. and do right by them. Now is the time when they get older and things start to break down mentally, physically, is just to take a step back and just say, you're going to be a priority and I'm going to take care of you. Realize that not every dog with Sundowner is going to have the same symptoms. They're not going to respond the same to drugs. You have to manage the medication as much as you are managing the dog to make sure that you're doing the most effective treatment that you can for your dog at that stage of its cognitive decline.
I'm so depressed now.
You know what? Unfortunately,
Between this weather and now Maggie's condition.
and so it's one of those things where you really...
They don't live as long as we do.
They don't live as long as we do. And I'll tell you what, not when she's having one of her episodes. When she's having one of her episodes, I want to crawl up a wall. But when she's not having her episode, she's so happy. She wants to lay on your lap. She wants to just be with you and touch you.
She's a really good dog.
She's a really good dog. And
so watching her decline is very painful.
I take it more as a challenge on how I can make their life better during the decline. You know, I've been through a lot of loss with my pets.
Yeah, you've had a lot of dogs, Eileen.
My biggest thing is to have their end of life do all the things that I want them to do.
Like a bucket list for dogs.
Exactly. So if I can do that bucket list and spend that extra time with them to make them realize that now they're the most important thing to me. I've been the most important thing to them their whole life, but I've gone to work and I've gone out and I've gone on vacation and I've done this stuff. You're now going to be the most important thing in my life. I'm going to do staycations so that I'm with you. When I'm on vacation, I'm staying home. It is the end of your life. I am going to give you my time. I'm going to make sure I have you on whatever supplements or medication I need to have you on to make sure you're as comfortable as possible. I'm going to make sure that this last time period of your life, you realize you're the most important thing to me because I was the most important thing to you for so long.
That's so beautiful. I want to cry.
When you get old and you need me, guess what? I'll be there.
Thank you, Eileen. I'm going to call you. Which
Maybe not for you, Dave.
Oh.
The four-legged variety only.
Getting more depressed by the minute.
So anyway, when it comes to Sundowner, realize that it is a cognitive decline. Keep an eye out for all of those little tiny symptoms and little tiny changes so that you can talk to your vet, get your pups on the best course of action to help with their confusion and help with their anxiety if they're going through this in this stage of their life. And just remember to love them through it all.
Yeah, because
they're not with us long enough.
They aren't.
So anyway, I think we are going to wrap up this podcast right now. Thank you everyone for joining us. If anyone has any questions or anything or any stories of their own dogs who have had Sundown Syndrome or any cognitive decline at the end of their life and have any advice for anyone, please go ahead and comment and share that advice. We'd love to hear everything from our listeners. But otherwise, I hope everyone stays warm. Hopefully it is back up in the 40s by the time you are listening to this podcast because that's what it's supposed to be by Sunday or Monday, and I am keeping my fingers crossed. Have a good rest of your day, and we will talk to you next week.